People say the Christian thing to do is help anyone who asks. Some churches even teach that saying no is selfish, that a generous heart never turns people away. But the Bible tells a completely different story. Scripture doesn't just tell you to give. It tells you to give wisely. It tells you to give with discernment. And in more places than most people have ever noticed, it tells you exactly who not to pour yourself into and why. Helping isn't always holy. Sometimes it's the easy way out of doing what God actually told you to do. In Galatians chapter 6 verse 10, Paul writes, "As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith." In other words, use your opportunities wisely. Prioritize people whose lives are moving toward God. That word opportunity does real work. It implies judgment. It implies discernment. Helping isn't supposed to be automatic. It's supposed to be intentional. Here are 7 types of people the Bible warns you about. And if you recognize someone in this list, pay attention. You know this person. Their name shows up on your screen, and your stomach drops. Not because you don't care about them, but because you already know how this ends. They ask, you hesitate. They push, you give. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, you're the one who feels like the bad guy. Some people don't just reject what you give, they use it against you. In Matthew chapter 7 verse 6, Jesus says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." In plain terms, what you carry is holy. Your time, your money, your care, your energy. Some people don't just fail to appreciate it, they take it and turn it into a weapon pointed back at you. That's not a person you owe, yes. That's a person you need to protect what God gave you from. There's a difference between someone in a hard season trying to get free and someone who is choosing wrong and wants you to make it comfortable. Picture it. You know what's destroying them. They know what's destroying them. And they keep asking you to help, not to stop, but to keep going without the consequences catching up. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 11, Paul writes, "But now I have written unto you not to keep company, if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such an one know not to eat." Paul isn't talking about a stranger. He's talking about someone who calls themselves a believer, who is knowingly sinning, and who is making no move to stop. His instruction isn't to keep confronting them forever, it's to separate. When you keep covering someone who keeps choosing wrong, you're not helping them. You're removing the one thing that might wake them up consequences. This one is the most direct verse in the list. There is no softening it. Year 1, you drove the groceries over. Year 2, you covered the bill. Year 3, they're still watching TV when you pull up. Nothing has changed, not because nothing can, but because nothing has to. You keep showing up. There's a difference between someone who cannot work and someone who will not work. Circumstances can keep a person from working. Pride, comfort, and entitlement are choices. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." Paul didn't whisper that. He called it a command. He's not describing someone in a crisis. He's describing someone who has decided that other people's faithfulness is their income. Scripture gives you permission to name that and to stop. You've had the conversation 5 times, maybe 10. You said the hard thing. You said it gently. You said it with love. Every time, they made you the villain. Every time, you walked away feeling smaller, and they walked away feeling justified. At some point, that's not humility on your part. That's you ignoring what the Bible already told you. And listen, if you've spent years saying yes to people like this, pouring your wisdom and your words into people who only use them against you, there's no condemnation here. You were trying to be like Jesus. The lie you believed was that Jesus never said no. He did, and so did Paul, and so did John. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 8. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Proverbs is not saying the mocker is beyond God's reach. It's saying that pouring wisdom into someone who despises it doesn't change them, it just costs you. A wise person receives correction and grows. A scorner receives it and attacks. The Bible gave you a way to tell the difference. Use it. This one doesn't ask you for money directly. It asks you for your platform, your share, your recommendation, your presence in the room. You click the button without thinking. You forward the video without testing what's in it. You keep showing up to the church or the conference or the channel, and somewhere along the way, your presence becomes an endorsement. 2 John chapter 1, verses 10 and 11. If there come any unto you, and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him God speed. For he that biddeth him God speed is partaker of his evil deeds. John is not ambiguous. If someone is teaching a broken gospel, and you give them your support, your platform, your money, your name, you are a partner in what they teach. Not a bystander, a partner. The gospel is not yours to modify, and your support is not harmless. This is the one that challenges something deep in you. Because your instinct says someone I love is suffering, I need to fix it. But God uses consequences. He uses the hard season, the empty account, the closed door. He uses the desert. When you rush in and remove what God put in place, you're not being compassionate. You're interrupting the process. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. Chastening is not punishment from a cruel God. It's discipline from a father who refuses to let his child stay lost. It's proof of love, not withdrawal of it. Look at the prodigal son's father. He did not go find his son in the pig pen. He did not send money. He did not negotiate. He waited. The waiting was part of it. The far country had to run out before the son came home. You can't interrupt a desert God sent someone to and call it love. This is the hardest one. Because this isn't a stranger. This is usually someone you love. You've noticed it. You pray less than you used to. You compromise more than you used to. You justify things you never used to justify. And every time you try to name it, the conversation gets turned back around, and somehow you're the problem. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. And Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 adds, He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Your loyalty to this person is real. But loyalty doesn't override what God told you about who you keep close. You cannot pour yourself into someone who is actively pulling you away from God and expect to stay standing. The question isn't whether you love them. The question is whether staying this close is bringing you toward God or away. That's not cruelty. That's the question the Bible asks you to answer honestly. Here's the bottom line. Saying no to the wrong person isn't hardness, it's faithfulness. The God who told you to be a good steward is the same God who told you to love your neighbor. He didn't contradict himself. He gave you discernment so you'd know the difference between the two. You don't need to feel guilty for protecting what God gave you. You don't need to keep funding what God is trying to stop. You don't need to explain yourself into a corner every time someone doesn't like your answer. No is a complete answer. And when God backs it up, it's a holy one. This week, before you say yes to anyone asking something of you, pause. Not to be cold, to be honest. Ask God whether this is an opportunity He opened or a pressure someone else created. Those are not the same thing. Then look at who you're already pouring into. If you've been giving for years and nothing is changing, not slowly, not gradually, not at all stop the flow. Redirect what God gave you toward the ground that's actually ready to receive it. And when you say no, say it clean. You don't owe anyone an explanation long enough for them to argue with. Helping isn't always holy. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is close your hand and trust God to open a better one. If this video shifted how you think about generosity, share it with someone who needs this kind of clarity. And if you want more scripture-based truth that cuts through religious guilt and gets back to what the Bible actually says, click the like button and subscribe to Bible Unshaken. Obedience is the offering. Discernment is the gift.